Ole Gunnar Solskjaer versus Pep Guardiola. It's a big game. Of course, we're going to be doing all the analysis on SofaScore. If you want to check out their app, there's a link in the description below. But anyway, let's dive in, guys. Big game for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Humongous game. Manchester United versus Man City. Always a difficult one to call. Always a difficult one to tactically see how both sides are going to set up. A lot of iterations in there that could be pulled by both managers in terms of players that are out of the game. Rafael Varane, according to the news, is out for a month for Manchester United. Victor Lindelof may return. The Sweden doctors saying it wasn't as bad as first thought. So that's someone that could be coming into the first team straight away. I think one of the big concerns for Manchester United is who partners Ronaldo up front. I think that's definitely a decision point for United. But let's take a look at the kind of expected setups for both teams. We've got Manchester United, 3-5-2. I think one of the big things with the recent game against Spurs, I think it showed Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the United can defend deep and compact in this shape. I think one of the best things about United was the distance between their two strikers and their back five. It was nice and compact in midfield, which arguably, really closed down that space for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think looking at the setup, very much has to be a five at the back. I just think that's how maybe you can get at City at the moment. Looking at United's forward line, it's probably going to be Edison Cavani and Ronaldo. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will go for experience. In terms of City is a bit of a weird one at the moment for one reason. The form of Kevin De Bruyne has been a little bit off in recent weeks. Didn't create a single chance last week in the Premier League. And that's something with De Bruyne that you kind of, you expect him every single game to be on 3+ chances created. And that statistic was a little bit worrying for Kevin De Bruyne's form right now. Great for Man United, but a little bit worrying for Man City. Kevin De Bruyne is likely to, position himself sort of on the blind side of the midfield, but also dropping in, being supported with Jack Grealish out on one wing. Probably going to have Gabriel Jesus on the other flank, with a bit of Phil Foden through the middle, who's been in absolute scintillating form lately. Rodri, Gundogan to come in. Cancelo, probably going to be looking at John Stones. In a defensive sense, Diaz, Walker, and of course Edison. I think City will set up in this kind of box midfield, overloading that central area. I think one of the big things for United in dealing with City and trying to counter-attack their natural shape is having these centre-backs stepping out at the right moment. Going very much man-to-man. If there's a moment for one of them to step and to go and press Phil Foden from behind him, and the rest of the defence moves into sort of a back four shape, that's what Man United need to do. So they need to try and get bodies into this zone so City don't overload that central area, which means Ronaldo and Cavani have got work to do. They've got to be getting goal side of Rodri and Gundogan in those positions. We know that João Cancelo likes to operate on that inside line with Jack Grealish holding the width. We know that Walker's come inside as well at times in recent games. The rotation for City could be really interesting. It could set up with Zinchenko playing, Cancelo playing in a high position. We could also have Cancelo part of the build-up with Rodri and Walker, and then Gundogan operating, creating that kind of that 2-3-5 shape that we saw City with the Centurions take up, which caused United a little bit of problem. But also from this problematic situation, you could go man for man on their sort of attacker midfield line. And again, trying to block the passes off into the midfield, having Ronaldo and Cavani trying to disrupt this line of build-up for City. That's a big thing, and I think that's why I would have quite liked to see, would quite like to see Marcus Rashford playing in this game, just because of the ability to break in behind and the pace, or even going with Mason Greenwood, either of the two. Just having one of the young players with Ronaldo, I think, to have that pace, just to get in behind. And we know that City can get opened up when you do break in behind them. I think that's a big thing with United. One of the other sides of things as well is could Bruno Fernandes press and join in. I think he could do, but then the issue is the positioning of Zinchenko and of Gundogan, where they're gonna, where those two are gonna go as well. So I think it does need to be more of a defensive shape. The forwards cutting off those lanes and waiting for those counter-attacking moments. I think from an attacking sense, United need a lot more out of Luke Shaw. They need a lot more out of Aaron Wan-Bissaka from an offensive situation in this shape. That's something that is a concern for me playing 3-5-2 with Manchester United. The lack of delivery from Luke Shaw this season, and the lack of delivery from Aaron Wan-Bissaka. In terms of the number of chances that they've conceded in the league this season, on average in the 4-2-3-1, they've conceded 1.6 expected goals per game. In the 3-5-2, that's dropped to 0.9. So there's been a massive improvement in terms of the lack of quality chances and quantity that they're giving their opponents. Far more comfortable in a back three or back five. I think at the moment the issue with playing Man City maybe in a 4-2-3-1 is that there's going to be big issues out wide, and we know that, and then there's going to be big issues in between the lines. For example, if Marcus Rashford were to start out wide left, Greenwood out wide right, Bruno at number 10, I think this is the big problem. That Foden's going to drop off the line, and you're going to have a lot of options for City to progress the ball into central areas. I know that this is an option from a counter-attacking potential. You're going to get a far greater potential of breaks and stuff with this shape. But the issue is that we've seen the wide players and the attacking midfielders and the strikers not dropping back and making a compact shape, which has led to opponents really opening up the door. As much as you'd fit in Bruno Fernandes, who ranks first in the Premier League and Champions League for chances created, along with Marcus Rashford, who with only Rooney, Aguero, Cantona and Scholes scoring more goals in the history of this fixture than Marcus Rashford. You can't get him in. You've got Mason Greenwood's form's been good this season. Ronaldo was back in the goals midweek against Atalanta. You want to fit your attackers in an idealistic world, but you just can't do that right now because of that defensive problem. So it is getting Eric Bailly in. It is dropping him into the defence. It is potentially having Ronaldo playing with Marcus Rashford. That's what I would prefer those two to play together. I think that gives United a far more threat on the counter than having Edinson Cavani in there. The big thing Cavani will give you is that work rate. He will be able to hound. He'll be able to hold up the ball in certain moments, but also spin into the channels. But it could be it could be a case of United starting with Ronaldo and Cavani, trying to stay in the game, trying to grab a goal on the counter-attack, and then bringing on Marcus Rashford and Mason Greenwood when the game is stretched. That pace is always going to be a big concern for Man City. I think with City as well, previously them pressing a back three shape, they did it quite well against Chelsea, where they forced Chelsea down one of the flanks, and then they press in a 4-2-3-1 shape. So it'd be the striker, Phil Foden in that zone. It'd be the near side winger. You'd have Kevin De Bruyne would be basically sat on the near side midfielder. The right winger would narrow. So see this kind of like 4-2-3-1 pressing shape that City were trying to create versus Chelsea's shape and system. That if, for example, Mason pulled into the channel, or let's say a Ronaldo or Cavani pulled into the channel, they would go man for man. Or let's say that the other side there, where Wan-Bissaka is a little bit high, and let's say Victor Lindelof's on the ball and Foden's pressurising them. That was kind of the City press. If you can kind of see it right now, it's 4 at the back, 2 in midfield, a band of kind of 3, and then the forward by themselves. And that's how City really pressed well in that game. They really forced Chelsea into situations where they couldn't play the switch. The biggest thing with this game is if United can play that switch, then maybe drop the ball back inside to an on-running attacker midfielder who can look for the through ball to a Cristiano Ronaldo spinning in. That is a big moment for United. I feel Luke Shaw is so important in this game. Massive in the last derby, but having Luke Shaw in that area, having Bruno Fernandes maybe spinning when United in possession to play that through ball and pass, that potentially is an argument for United to actually go 3-4-1-2 versus the 3-5-2 we've been talking about, to get Bruno Fernandes into an attacking midfield position. We've seen Chelsea do this countless times against City. That big switch out to left fullback, dropped inside, Mason Mount with the through ball, scoring goals via that methodology. I think with when you look at the setup of Guardiola, it is about hitting them when their shape is high. It's about hitting them and having that composure when they do get into the final third to slow things down. Because City are deceptively poor when they're defending their own penalty area. And if you take your time and don't rush things, which we see United constantly rush things, looking for the final ball all the time. If you slow down in the final third, you can really open this City team up. And I believe in a 3-5-2, probably the best way to do that right now with United squad. Defensive solidity, but also that counter-attacking threat. When we take a look at, for example, Scott McTominay's last league appearances against Man City. He's unbeaten in the Premier League against City with an aggregate score of 9-3. And I think that's someone that's going to be so important for Manchester United. Not only from a possession perspective, we saw how Scott did quite well against Spurs, rolling that pressure. Obviously, City's pressure is going to be a lot better, but actually carrying through at times is going to be important. And playing through. That's going back to our argument, but whether playing Bruno as a 10 or Bruno as a midfielder. I think from a possession perspective, it'll be better for Bruno to start in the build-up deeper, to get involved on the ball. I think that definitely could be an idea for United to kind of drop down, get on the ball in those deep zones and play through. The concern for United with some of the City players, Phil Foden's record against the top six is absolutely fantastic already. At just such a young age, Phil Foden's been directly involved in 13 goals in all competitions against the top six. Against Liverpool, he's got 3 goals and 2 assists. Against Arsenal, he's got 2 goals and 2 assists. Against Chelsea, Phil Foden's got 2 assists and a goal. 1 assist against Leicester, but yet to register a goal assist against Man United. And the form of Phil Foden, his ability to drift off the line, to get on the ball, to make things happen, will be such a concern for Manchester United's midfield and their defence. Thanks for watching, guys. Get your score predictions in the comments below. Will Man United win the Manchester derby, or will it be another game that Pep Guardiola takes United apart? I've been Statman Dave. Subscribe if you're new. Check out SofaScore. We'll see you later.